Good evening. It is March 30th, 2022. This complaint about judicial misconduct was recently submitted to the Board on Judicial Standards here in Minnesota regarding Judge Sarah Gruen, who was assigned to the consent decree cases and arguably should have recused or disqualified herself, basically to fall in line with the Code of Judicial Conduct, which she as a judge must adhere to. And acknowledgement of her understanding of that Code of Conduct is indicated by this particular letter sent to the council in LaRose v. Simon, specifically noting Rule 211, noting a relationship with Mr. Clark. However, interestingly, she does not talk about her role as a state director, which is an important political operative role for U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar, nor mention of her employment as a chief of staff with former mayor of St. Paul, Chris Coleman. So it does beg the question why that was left out in such an important consent decree case, which altered the way our elections were run with regard to absentee ballots. Consider this timeline: May through August of 2020, leading up to the election. You could be forgiven for having been distracted by George Floyd or coronavirus news or any number of things. But this is a partial timeline of these cases being brought after Secretary of State Steve Simon failed to get irrevocable power to run elections basically the way he wanted to run them from the legislature. Then these lawsuits are filed, and Judge Sarah Gruen is appointed to be the judge on these cases. However, as this complaint goes into some detail about, and I encourage you to read that detail, the question is whether, according to the Minnesota Board on Judicial Standards review of that Code of Judicial Conduct, whether Sarah Judge Gruen should have recused, or in other words, disqualified herself from these cases. Now, she did stay on the cases. She did not recuse herself, and she did order those partial consent decrees to go through, which did have a crucial effect on the absentee portion of the ballots here in Minnesota. Now, that's critical because 58% of all ballots cast were absentee or mail-in. That was a stark increase from the prior elections. And the critical piece here is that the witness and signature requirements were waived, were dropped as a result of these consent decrees. There was also an extension of deadlines. But the first two pieces there, the signature and witness requirements that are in Minnesota statutes, were waived as a result of these consent decrees. Now, in conjunction with the machine manipulation that has been shown in places like Mesa County, Colorado, via a forensic analysis of individuals with roughly 80 years of IT experience, we start to see a picture developing here around how election procedures were changed to feed those machines, which many believe represent their voice through a vote and a ballot, but are really a data point that the machine can then use how it likes. And that is how they are designed. But before you can feed the machine anything, you must have something to feed it. And these consent decrees went a long way to expanding the availability of absentee ballots into the overall election pool, as was evidenced by the total of 58% of all ballots being cast that way in the November 3rd, 2020 election. So I encourage you all to take a look at this complaint carefully to understand the developments that lead into it and make a decision for yourself. Like, should Judge Sarah Gruing have recused herself or not? And what were the implications of that? What was the outcome or consequence of that decision? So please go take a look and let me know what you think.